The 1013 Ridge Road splash car wash was tabled last week because the board required some more information. And go ahead and state your name and, tell us what more you come up with.
Yes, sir. Donald Young on behalf of the applicant for 1013 Ridge Road.
Just hang on one second.
Okay, sure.
For the record, we'll re-announce it. So the first tabled matter is 1013 Ridge Road, Splash Car Wash. Located at 1013 Ridge Road, applicant 962 Ridge Road, LLC, and Fox 5 LLC is requesting a use variance to allow a car wash, which is not a permitted use in the district associated with the construction of a 7,000 square foot car wash facility on a 1.86 acre parcel having SBL number 079 1.5-1-16.003, located in an MC medium intensity commercial district under section 225-17 of the Code of Town of Webster.
Now, if you bear with me for 1 minute,
Sure.
I'll let Catherine call roll.
Okay. Mr. Barone?
Here.
Mr. Stockenbeck?
Here.
Mrs. Volo?
Here.
Mr. Hauser?
Here.
Mr. DeMarco?
Here.
Mr. Artuso?
Okay, now we're ready.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Donald Young, attorney appearing on behalf of the applicant and owner of property at 1013 Ridge Road, who's seeking a use variance for the car wash proposal. We were here at the last meeting earlier in August. On this application, we had some good discussion, but the application was tabled. The zoning board was seeking some additional information. And so in between those two meetings, we have made an additional submittal that we hope addresses the questions that were asked by the board. As we understood it, there were really two questions. One was for us to provide some comparables or to examine other parcels recently sold in the area. And so in response to that, under cover from our real estate broker, we submitted a list of comparables in the area. And then the other inquiry was relating to additional documentation in support of the real estate letter regarding the inability to come to a deal with some of the prospects, including any emails or written documentation we could find for the issues relating to co-tenancy. And so in response to that, under cover from the real estate broker, we've submitted 4 emails relating to that issue. You can see in the letter, those 4 emails are attached to it. We have one relating to Halal Guys, which I believe is a restaurant business, providing that they were looking to locate a property that had higher traffic co-tenancy. We have another one from Harbor Freight Tools, talking about how the property doesn't have, quote, the co-tenancy that Harbor Freight typically likes. There's another one there from Sola Salons that is, quote, looking for a property with, quote, better co-tenancy. And then there's also another email that talks about, from Valvoline, that talks about how Walgreens is vacant, and that is a concern. That there also relates to co-tenancy. Because that's a nearby property that's not currently actively a tenant. So let you have a quick look at those, and if you have any questions, we're happy to discuss them.
I was...
Mr. Barone?
Yes. Go ahead,
With
John.
respect to the letter from Donovan Real Estate Services and the attachment with respect to the PDF comparables, could the applicant or the agent explain the relevancy of the square foot pricing and the prices of the comp as it relates to their difficulties with respect to their current property, so the record has some context as to the significance of that attachment?
Did you hear Mr. DeMarco?
I think I got that.
You have square footage indicated on all these properties?
Yeah, I think the comparables list here is in response to an inquiry from the board from the last meeting. The board had asked for, the board had expressed that it wanted to examine other parcels recently sold in the area. And so these represent some other parcels recently sold in the area and the prices we understand that they were sold for. The reason why we have the per square foot price is because, they're all different sizes. And so we couldn't find a parcel that was 2.16 acres in size exactly. And so we had to kind of, we had to relate the price to the acreage differences.
How many square feet is your parcel you're looking at now?
The parcel, the subject of the application is 2.16 acres, which is 94,089 square feet.
Okay. That helps. Frankly, a couple of these are good comps, like Donovan Street is nothing like Ridge Road, for instance. I find the Royal Car Wash comp similar in size. Your car's a little bit larger, but the price on that is $600,000. Tit and Wheel Operator is a similar type of properties on Ridge Road, $675,000. Commercial Street's really not the same as Ridge Road property, but these numbers satisfy me. The rest of the board will have their own opinion as far as the value of the property, because one of the things we have to look at is why didn't the property sell? Was it not marketed aggressively, or was it priced to buy it? But now that I see these numbers, I can see that the pricing is competitive with other properties on Ridge Road. So that satisfies the question I had last week.
Yes, you mentioned it's 2.16 acres. The advertisement indicates 1.86 acres. Why this discrepancy?
Yeah, that's because in our original cover letter, it kind of goes into that a little bit. It's a little, just reference that so we're clear. This property includes 1013 Ridge Road, which is 1.86 acres, as well as a 0.3 acre portion of 991 Ridge Road that's directly adjacent to it. Kind of squares off the property.
The AccuSite property?
No, it's also owned by, it's not the AccuSite, no. It's adjacent.
Now, is that like an ingress-egress area? Is that why?
It's more about, if you look at one of the maps that was submitted, it just kind of squares off the property. Actually, if you can, does it show it on the map there?
Yeah, I think here.
Sure.
I'll just be clear.
Dave Clements representing Splash Management. So the 1.86 acre parcel, you can barely see it on for where you're sitting maybe, but it's this outline. And then 0.31 acres is a piece of land now associated with a balance
Okay.
that will be subdivided into it to clean it up.
Okay, so the subdivision map is going to be modified?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
So the applicant has provided actual correspondences with some of the potential buyers. I learned a new word called co-tenancy, which I didn't know anything about that, but I'm learning. And apparently, the vacant Rite Aid store was a deterrent for one of the potential buyers.
Yeah, the
It's been
wall.
vacant for a number of years. The co-tenancy wasn't what they want. Maybe AccuSite doesn't attract as much traffic as they'd like. But I like the fact that you provided actual comments from potential buyers that you have, or actual comments.
Thank you, we're happy we could dig up those emails.
Directly, of course.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? last week you made a pretty complete and thorough presentation, but there were those few questions we had up that left our decision-making process kind of up in the air. And Mr. Newtown did a good job of saying, this is what we want, and you did provide what we needed.
Thanks, sir.
This meeting is open to the public. Anybody have any comments for or against this application? So with that, we'll return back to the board. This is an unlisted action as far as secret goes, so I'll make a motion under 617 of the environmental code to make a motion to name this unlisted action.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So, use variance is totally different than area. The applicant has to prove that they aggressively marketed the property. The property was marketed at a competitive price. They've been deprived of all economic use and benefit for the property, including, in fact, incurred expenses over the past several years while you're trying to market the property. We faced.
Let me just, if I could just clarify that, so the record is clear on what the standard is. The applicant has to demonstrate that they cannot realize a reasonable return, provided that the lack of return is substantial, as demonstrated by competent financial evidence. The inquiry is whether the use allowed by the zoning law yielding a reasonable return. So one of the things that we always have to remember to do is that the applicant must make some demonstration that they can't realize a reasonable return from each of the uses that are permitted in the zoning district. So you might want to make clear that there's at least been some contemplation, some due diligence, some determination that whatever is allowed in that area cannot realize a reasonable return as well. In other words, in addition to those uses that they present.
Now, I think what you might want to do, pursuant to Mr. DeMarco's comment, is kind of recap your marketing, the marketing you did perform. We have 4 or 5 in our packet here, but why don't you recap that? So
Sure.
we can get it to the record.
Sure, thanks. Let me just pull out my notes.
And I might mention that all those that we did receive orders from were allowed in that zoning, correct?
What's that? Say
Except
again?
Jiffy Lube. Jiffy Lube would have required use variances.
Valid.
But-
Mhm. Yeah, I can kind of summarize the overview. Okay, so with respect to the element that the property has been unable to generate a reasonable return, since the owner purchased the property in 2007, the owner has been marketing it, including on a number of online real estate services via emails, printed materials, digital brochures, websites, signage, and so on. And while there has been interest in the property, the owner has been unable to secure a tenant for a number of reasons. In the initial letter from the real estate broker submitted with the application details those challenges in attempting to secure a buyer or tenant, including the inability to come to deals with a variety of users, including restaurants, retailers, a grocery store, an urgent care facility, and so on. And there's a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's a list there in the letter of 9 users that are potential deals that we weren't able to seal or to close on. And we've been attempting to fill the property for about 15 years since we acquired it at that $600,000 value we talked about. So given those 15 years of vacancy, the property has only incurred expenses and losses over those 15 years since it's been vacant. There's been no tenant. And then the letter from the owner's comptroller submitted the application describes those losses. And just to summarize them for you, and there's an income statement included with the application that details losses of $45,000 in 2021, $43,000 in 2020, $43,000 in 2019, and $49,000 in 2019. And those are just because the property not producing any income because we're unable to secure a tenant for the property. So, you know, I think that was the, the element that this board is interested in revisiting tonight, and which is why we submitted those. The board had asked for some emails to support the real estate broker's letter that we were unable to secure for a reason other than, the price wasn't right, which is what you were talking about. And so you'll see in those emails that these companies are talking about lack of co-tenancy, which is what we put in which is what the real estate broker described in this letter. And then I think also you wanted to establish that the acquisition value was accurate, and so you had requested that list of comparable parcels in the area, which we talked about. They may be a different size, but those are the ones we had to work with.
Did I hear you say that this owner's owned the property for 15 years?
Yes.
15?
15, 1-5.
John, does that satisfy what
Yeah,
you're looking for?
I think that it does, and I think the only other criteria that is less than obvious is the second piece of the use variance. That the property's plight is due to a unique circumstance and not the general neighborhood condition, that the hardship relating to the property in question is unique and doesn't apply to a substantial portion of the district or neighborhood. I think here, I know there's some uniqueness with that, the way that driveway comes off of Ridge Road and the way that the parcel is set away from the main drag as opposed to, as compared to other plazas, if you will. So I think that should be expressed on the record as well. If there is uniqueness, that should be described in substance.
Okay, now, to that point, it's interesting that you mentioned that. You can only turn one way going out of there on Ridge Road, and you have to enter. You can enter from Ridge Road going east, but the only other entrance is off Shoecraft Road, so it is a little bit unique as far as access.
Yeah, I
It may
think,
have been a deterrent to some of the potential buyers you might have had. It's not the easiest site to get into. So
yeah,
it is a unique site. It's not a frontage lot right at Ridge Road where you pull right into the lot and pull right out. It has shared driveways and so on, so that makes that site
right.
a little bit different, a little bit unique in that respect.
Yeah, I think because it's accessed off of internal, like you're saying, off of internal roads instead of a direct cut right into it from Ridge Road, that is a bit unique. And one of the other things that we talked about is the uniqueness in the sense that it's kind of like an infill property because it's sandwiched in between two already developed properties. Right? We have the eyesight on one side and we have the Wendy's on the other, and we can't change those to attract these tenants that want a different kind of co-tenancy. And so that's one of the unique challenges with this property is that it's sandwiched in between two parcels that are already developed. It just is on top of what we already talked about.
Corinne, you have anything? I want to give you an opportunity to
No,
participate.
the applicant provided the information that we needed in order to show the marketing as well as the price being sufficient. And it's a unique situation based on the location and the access to the parcel.
Rick, so I'm looking at the standards, and the applicant has been owned the property for 15 years, marketed the property, over those 15 years, but probably more or less within the last 4 or 5 years, I would assume. Is that correct? He's given us examples of potential buyers, and he actually gave us their correspondence stating why they were not interested in the property. Co-tenancy was a big item. It is a unique site. A lot of them said they would be more interested if it was closer to 104 Expressway. One of them said they would be more interested if it was just across the street on Ridge Road, not on the far side of Ridge Road. So there is some uniqueness to that site. I think the applicant has adequately proven that they've marketed it aggressively. They have been deprived of economic use of the property, or economic return of the property, benefit from the property, to the tune of $40,000 or $50,000 a year over the last several years. Is that correct?
That's right, that's what the income statement shows.
Well, that you need to make a finding of the board is finding that deprivation is substantial, not just that it exists, if you also find.
So, I guess I'll just put it forward, but do you feel, Rick, Don, or do you feel like deprivation of income has been substantial to the applicant? I believe he's proven that with the paperwork submitted and his testimony.
Correct.
Yes, I agree.
You would. Okay. John, are we ready to make a motion?
Yes, it sounds like you've got the, and you know, Mr. Chairman, I know that the information's been provided to the board, but it might be helpful that you're incorporating in your decision, and the board has in fact reviewed the supplemental submission that I believe the applicant indicated included 4 separate emails from commercial companies or their representatives providing on each occasion the difficulties that the applicant has previously provided.
Okay, to that point, we've all, actually, Catherine did email out all those correspondences to every member of the board, and we've all reviewed them, and we have hard copies in front of us now, and we've all had a chance to look these over. So what the applicant did is he verified for us the value of the property, showing us comparables, and there are a couple of good comps in there. Both are on Ridge Road. Prices are actually pretty close to what they're looking at. He also provided us with correspondences from potential buyers that backed off the property. So I think all these submissions will make part of the record, and that'll help substantiate our decision. So,
We also received comments from Merle County Department of Planning, really nothing spectacular, just what they think.
I think their biggest issue was stacking of vehicles.
That's correct.
And of all the comments they made, that was most, but I think that's going to become a planning board issue. We're not really qualified for that, but I'm sure the planning board will do a good job of that as far as the design of the property.
Understood.
All right. So
And there's been no, Chairman, there's been no filing in opposition to the application, either on the original evening or tonight's agenda as well. Is that accurate?
that is correct. We've had no objection from any of the residents or neighbors with respect to this application. No email objections, no public objections. So we have no opposition to this particular application.
I have nothing further.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to grant a use variance for 1013 Ridge Road / car wash located 1013 Ridge Road. Applicant 962 Ridge Road LLC, Box 5 LLC is requesting a use variance to allow a car wash, which is not a permitted use in the district associated with the construction of a 7,000 square foot car wash facility on a 1.86 acre parcel having SBL number 079.15-1-16.003, located in a medium-intensity commercial district under section 225-17 of the Code of the Town of Webster.
Just one correction, it should be 2.16.
I'll correct that to say 2.16 acre. For the record.
Second.
Mr. Steppenbeck?
Aye.
Mr. Hauser?
Aye.
Mrs. Volo?
Aye.
Mr. Barone?
Aye. Okay, you have your use variance, so next step, planning board.
Thank you.
We take the project.
Thank you, appreciate it.
1 year meaningful construction.
1 year, yeah, 1 year to move forward, meaningful construction on the project.